Welcome to another Snuggles Quilts mini tutorial. Today what I'm going to talk about is lining up points on a block when you join it to another block with points. This can be one of the more difficult things to do when you are piecing blocks into rows. And if you don't get them lined up, then it can make your rows look a little bit wonky, and it might ruin the design of your quilt top if you have a secondary design going on once you join the blocks. So first thing you do is you lay the bottom block down. You take the next block and you lay it on top. First thing I'm going to do is line up the ends of the block and get those pinned in place so those don't shift around, because you want to make sure your ends line up. Now you're going to take the seam where the points are. Here's your first seam, and what I do is I bend them over like this so that I can see both points. On the bottom you can see is the green point, and on the top is the orange point. And I like to just kind of shift it around, move it around, and get those points to lay right on top of each other. So it might take a little maneuvering, but you use the seam line on the blocks and you look at where the points are and see how those are going to lay right on top of each other as I close it. And that's seam number one. You're going to do the same thing for that next seam over here because it's the same type of a seam. So I'm going to match them up and slowly close it up so that they lay right on top of each other. Now with the center one, since these are diagonal seams, it's a little bit different than the ones on the ends. So this one, I open it up and I get the diagonal seam lines of the green and the orange section there in the middle to line up. I get them to lay directly on top of each other, and as you can see me closing it, those points are going to match right at the top. So then I hold that, pin it in place. So now that I've got my points all nice and lined up, then I could put in my extra pins that I need to hold everything in place for stitching the seam. So then when I stitch with my 1/4 inch seam across here, it's going to perfectly line up these points. So I'm going to show you how one seam line looks that I've already done. And you can see right here, see how nicely these points line up. They're pointing right at each other and they're evenly lined up so that any kind of secondary design I might have between the blocks is going to be show up really nicely. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new today, and I will be back with another one soon.